I wouldn't be here today had I not started talking anonymously about my struggle to save money on Instagram. I didn't have people who would talk money with me, so I created a community. And you need people who are going to breathe life into you when you're just feeling all of this drain and pressure.
Can you pay off student loans and build generational wealth all at the same time? Welcome to Living Not So Fabulously, where we talk about how to buck the I'm too far behind and never getting ahead mentality and supercharge the path to financial success. Rita-Soledad Fernandez Paulino is a first-generation American who is taking charge and helping others in her community understand the value of building wealth while empowering her clients to take control of their financial lives.
Rita-Soledad is a former public school math teacher and personal finance educator and financial healer who used zero-based budgeting to pay off student loan debt, create an early retirement plan, and achieve financial security. Welcome to the show, Rita-Soledad.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we are super excited to have this conversation with you. We've loved following your journey. And to start off, I want to kind of hop in the Wayback Machine here. You once had roughly around $23,000 in student loan debt, and you committed to paying that off in 1 year, even while you were on disability income. So what was the mindset and the concrete plan that you put in place that said, we can be debt-free by this particular date?
So guys, I had $23,000 of debt after 10 years of payments. And then I decided I wanted to pay it all off and become debt-free before turning 33. And the only reason I had decided I wanted to do that was because I had increased my financial literacy. And I realized that carrying this debt, not building savings, not investing was just holding me back. I was 32 years old with 2 kids living in Los Angeles, and I was determined to change our financial trajectory, even though I had disability income and my husband was looking for a job.
So I'm curious, there's a new trend in the personal finance space where they're taking the pressure off, the financial anxiety off, and saying there's no need to pay off your debt in such a hurry. It's not a competition. So from your perspective, why was it important to you to pay it off within a year of making that decision?
Because I wanted to start investing in the stock market. Now, I will say I lacked some financial literacy because I would have started to max out a Roth IRA with the student loan debt that I had, given that it wasn't high interest. I think there's a different approach. If you have high interest debt, anything above a 9% interest rate or even 10% interest rate, yeah, let's prioritize paying that off. My interest on my student loans are probably like around 4%. But I had received certain information, the books that I had read that were like very like no debt. And because that's what I had access to, that's what I believed. And I had shame. I had shame about being 32 years old with 2 kids and not even knowing if I was investing for retirement.
Yeah. So, folks, if you're just joining us, this is Living Not So Fabulously, where we share the real life stories of folks doing the hard things to build wealth. We're speaking with Rita-Soledad Fernandez Paulino, host of the Wealth Para Todos podcast, about her success in paying off debt and building wealth. So, let's go back to this idea of you paying off your debt. When you say you use zero-based budgeting to eliminate your debt, what is that? And what did that budget look like for you?
So I had made a plan I had a fixed income and yeah, my disability checks, and I made a plan for every single dollar. I remember at the time we only could spend $20 a week on eating out. And so that was still part of my budget. I'm not somebody who likes to cook all the time. So I still wanted to budget for being able to eat out. But every single dollar that came our way was allocated ahead of time. Now, of course, life would happen. I'm first gen. I would have loved ones who would need money, and I had to learn to adjust the budget and do so in a way that wasn't so rigid and be more compassionate with myself. That's what made it sustainable.
Oh, yeah. Did you find that there were some things that you allowed yourself to continue spending on and other things that you just said, I'm cutting this out entirely?
Well, Up until that point, I wasn't even aware of all my spending and where money was going. I remember when I realized that I was spending up to $100 a month on parking fees just in Los Angeles in order to park my car somewhere. And I remember saying, no, we are not going to spend not $1 on parking. We are going to find free parking and we will walk a further distance. We will plan ahead of time to just make sure I'm not going to do that. So I gave up parking. I continue to allow eating out, and I think I even allowed, like, getting a manicure once a month.
Well, you gotta things are important. You gotta have that splurge from time to time.
So I love that you got crystal clear on where every dollar was going, and then with the idea of having a job for every single dollar. I think those two steps for so many American households today would take them leaps and bounds in their financial security, because those are the first things that we did. We didn't realize you were spending $10,000 a year on credit card interest payments, and we had $51,000. So what was that? I'm curious. I can remember when we figured out where all of our money was going and how, like, shocked we were. What was that moment for you when you realized you were paying $100 in parking fees and money was going elsewhere that you maybe weren't aware of?
Well, I remember when I logged onto my student loans and I saw the amount of interest I was being charged on a daily basis. And at that time, it was like $27. And that bothered me so much because I thought $27, I could go to Pollo Loco. I could eat, tacos de carne asada. Like I could spend, it was only $27. And at the same time, that was money I could spend on other things that would give me joy. And that was also a desire for me to wanna, like, eliminate the debt as soon as possible because I thought if I could learn how to make these big payments towards my debt, eventually those will be big payments towards Roth IRA contributions, 401k contributions, and a taxable brokerage account.
Yeah, I love that. We kind of had a similar feeling when we looked at that $10,000 of interest we were paying. Most of our debt was because of going on nice vacations and never paying them off. And we thought $10,000 is enough to take several really nice vacations. Maybe we should pay it off and then use cash. So you just mentioned this idea of investing and investing in retirement. So how did you begin investing once your debt was paid off, or did you wait? Did you wait until it was paid off before you started investing?
So I had been investing in a 403b plan at the age of 23. I didn't know that I was investing in the stock market though. I had done so for 4 years, and my husband had invested but pulled out his money when he had left an employer. So in my mind, I was like, oh, we're starting from scratch. I didn't even know that I had been investing in the stock market. Once I started doing some digging, I realized that I had been investing in a pension plan, and I also had this 403b. Then I was like, well, what would it be like to max these accounts out? What would it be like to roll over these accounts and have more control over our assets? And as I started asking those questions, I remember it was only a matter of time before I started wondering, well, what would it take for me to retire early?
Mhm. Yeah. So hold that thought for a second. We just hold that. We'll be right back after we take a quick break. Welcome back to Living Not So Fabulously. We're back talking with podcast host Rita-Soledad Fernandez Paulino about how to create a wealth mindset that produces results. So you were talking about thinking about investing in retirement and the idea of not even realizing that you were investing because you were putting money into your 403b. One of the phrases that you use a lot in your brand is this idea of poco a poco. What does that mean? And what does it mean in the context of building wealth, especially with what you were just sharing with us, understanding that you wanted to start maxing out or even doing more?
Yeah. So because I felt so behind and often even hopeless that building financial security was possible for someone with my lived experiences and my lived identities, I had to learn how to nurture patience. And the phrase poco a poco todo con tiempo means little by little, everything in good time. And when I found myself struggling with budgeting, when I found myself not meeting my savings goals, when I found myself not getting the return I wanted on my investments, I just had to tell myself repeatedly, poco a poco, todo con tiempo. And by nurturing that patience, I was actually also nurturing persistence.
I love that. I think that there is a lot of pressure, right? I think a lot of uh, individuals, when they start to understand or learn how wealth is created through investing, especially retirement investing, they immediately think about, I'm behind, I need to catch up, and they start to stress out. So, what are some of your favorite tools that have helped you or maybe others maintain that poco a poco lifestyle while you're building wealth?
I think the key thing is to understand that money is a tool to support your wellness and to support your joy. And if you focus on making sure that your money is going to that, right? That you're using money proactively on parts of self care, then it becomes sustainable. It doesn't feel like sacrifice. Sacrifice isn't sustainable. Deprivation isn't sustainable. If you want to be patient, you need to be in your zone of resilience where you feel calm, happy, peaceful, creative.
Yeah, so studies have shown that when you feel calm, happy, creative, you're able to make better decisions than when you're in a high stress environment or situation. But when you think about the stock market, you think about Wall Street, especially a lot of like crypto bro kind of mentality. It's I got to be as rich as fast as possible, and I got to make as much money as fast as possible. So I'm curious, having been through your lived experience with the poco a poco mentality, how do you think that has benefited, not only your peace of mind, but also the decisions that you've made to make the accomplishments that you've made with your finances?
I have been able to take action. Now, I want to be clear. There have been times where I felt the shame and I would put this pressure on myself. I now refer to those moments as like trickster trader trash thoughts. I have decided to approach thinking about money from this playful, pleasant pensamientos. That's where I am nurturing this patient side. And I do that because I understand it's better for my marriage. It's better for me as a parent. It's better for me as an individual, even just navigating different systemic things in our society. When I am not choosing to be patient, I'm more likely to sacrifice my sleep, my wellness, and get resentful and judgmental. And nobody wants
Mm.
to live like that. That's not fabulous.
No. And you just mentioned, you have children. What do you think they're getting from your story? Both the way your sort of poco a poco approach to your finances, but also having to be able to accomplish what you did and paying off your debt and start building wealth.
My kids have learned the value of financial planning. And that is just amazing to watch. And they also had this perspective of like, money's always coming my way. I remember hearing my trans daughter talking to my son, and my son was like, "You're going to use all your savings to buy this toy." And she was like, "Yeah, it's only a matter of time before money comes my way. I'll be able to save again." And I was like, "Yeah, that's how it should be. Money can flow, and we don't need to be so restrictive or feel so, obligated to hoard."
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I love that you're teaching that example to your children, and that your children are actually living that example back out into the world. Um, it's really hard when you're at a lower income, when you're struggling financially, when you feel like the world is really putting a lot of financial pressure on you. And I think that, a lot of economists today are talking about how we're in a K-shaped economy, that it seems like there's a small percentage of people that are doing really well, and there's a large percentage of people who are not doing well. When you think about the individuals who are on that lower leg of the K and they are feeling this stress, what would you say to them is something that they can do, something they can think about, or some small tip that they can take and put into action in their lives to start moving in the direction that you went?
I think our biggest assets is our community and starting to value the family members, our community members, teachers, whoever you have around you that you could lean into for support. I wouldn't be here today had I not started talking anonymously about my struggle to save money on Instagram. I didn't have people who would talk money with me, so I created a community, and you need people who are gonna breathe life into you when you're just feeling all of this drain and pressure. So there's some it's create your community, find people who are going to support you. That is so essential in terms of being able to regulate your nervous system and to maintain hope.
I absolutely agree with you. I kind of have to, in this moment, go to the way that Gandhi taught. And Gandhi taught that the things that we talk about the things that we think about are the things that we're going to talk about. The things that we talk about are the things we're going to do. The things that we do end up being our destiny. And oftentimes, as individuals, when we are lower income individuals, we get stuck in this spot of only thinking about the struggle. But if we have a community, even if that community is one other person, to be able to have those conversations with you and break that constant, I'm in a struggle bus, I'm on the struggle bus, I'm on the struggle bus. If you can say, well, I'm getting off the struggle bus today because I'm doing this. That really does set somebody up for that opportunity to really improve not only their mental relationship with money, but eventually their habitual relationship with money and the way that they actually act with money.
Of course. And I also just want to remind people like when you're a first gen wealth builder, you're taking all these actions, and often we're just one emergency away from dealing with financial insecurity. I was sick for 6 months, put on medical leave, having to take disability checks. Something that allowed me to focus on paying off debt is the fact that I was renting from a loved one who gave me rent subsidized, like rent was subsidized, community support there. It was a cousin who gave me a personal finance book. And I think it's important that we're aware of, you know, we're not going to be able to do this alone. We have to work as a collective to support each other and also think about who we're voting for and the systemic things that we're putting in place so that there are more safety nets.
Yeah, definitely. I have to agree with you when you talk about the emotional impacts or the feelings that we might have. We've already seen that marketers have proven to us that the more emotionally stressed we are, the more financially stressed we are, the more we feel like the world is not giving us what we need. We open up the apps, we start scrolling, and we start buying, right? And they actually tap into those feelings in us to make us feel like we actually have to spend to make ourselves feel better. So if the outside world is making us feel that way, we've got to figure out a way to build some sort of wall to protect ourselves. You mentioned that you're a first gen American. So I really would love to ask you, as a first gen American, why is building generational wealth so important to you?
Whew, so important. It's so important because of the financial flexibility. The same skills that it takes to build generational wealth actually provide you with financial flexibility right now. So during this current administration, this isn't the first time that we've dealt with this president, but this is the first time I personally am dealing with this president with this level of financial security. I have been able to use money to get therapy, to go to couples therapy. I've been able to use money to create fun experiences for my children. I've been able to use money to donate to causes to support other people who are being impacted by different policies. And it's giving me choice. And with that choice, there's so much empowerment. So I think it's so important. Like, yeah, let's pursue generational wealth because of what it provides right now.
Yeah, I love that because I think so many people think about generational wealth with this idea of eventually somebody's going to hand it to me, right? I'm building generational wealth to hand off to my children, to my grandchildren, and they're going to be able to do so many things with that money. But I love that you actually pull some of that joy and some of that freedom to yourself and say what it builds for you is amazing, and freedom and access that you may not have had before. And I think that's really important, that generation building generational wealth is not sacrificing yourself for the future. It's building something for yourself today that you will also be able to pass on tomorrow. I know that one of the tools that you absolutely love to talk about is a Roth IRA. So why is a Roth IRA such a valuable tool when it comes to building wealth, whether that's short term or long term?
The reason why I rep hard for Roth IRAs is it's because I didn't know I was investing in the stock market. Like, that's how low my financial literacy was. I wasn't aware of that. But when I decided to open up a Roth IRA, I had to go through the 4 steps of investing. Choose a brokerage firm, choose an account, make a contribution, choose your assets. And in those 4 steps, I was like, oh, well, now I could do that again with a taxable brokerage account. I can do that again with a 529. I could do that again with a solo 401k. And the steps were just repetitive. A Roth IRA specifically, I think, is a great account because of the fact that you can take out your contributions at any time with no penalty. And at retirement, you're not going to have to pay taxes on it. So it's my favorite account, but it's not the only account that we could be using to invest and build our wealth.
Yeah, I agree. It is I think an underutilized tool that a lot of people aren't necessarily either aware of or have not had someone explain it to them in a simple enough manner about how valuable or important it can be for them. Are there, just as we're closing here, are there any tips or tricks, financial or mental, that you've taught your clients, or maybe they've shared with you that have supercharged your ability to pay off debt or to get great returns in investing?
Yeah, so I always tell my clients there's this activity that I do with them. It's called Price Out Your Peace. And it's writing out your self care activities that are free, low tier, mid tier, and high tier. And it's important that we all have self care activities that vary in cost because different seasons of your life, you're going to be able to maybe travel more, which is going to be higher tier, but there might be seasons of your life where you're going to have to really be tuning into free self care. And so having that written out for yourself ahead of time is key when you're trying to follow a budget, when you're trying to make sure that you have that extra cash flow to go towards debt, savings, investing, or even spending more on your joy.
I think my takeaway is I've never heard someone describe the value of building generational wealth from the reference point of the builder of the wealth. We oftentimes just think of the value for future generations. We need to remember that.
Yeah, so our takeaway for you today is remember Soledad's 4 steps that you can repeat over and over and over again. Select the broker, select the account, make the contribution, and invest your money. That's how you start building generational wealth.
Thanks for tuning in. If you have any guest suggestions or questions for us, just email yfpodcast@yahooinc.com.
And if you like what you see, scan the QR code to follow Yahoo Finance Podcast for more videos and expert insights. And until next time,
Stay fabulous.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.